The wind swept across the Arabian desert, carrying the sound of hooves and the distant cry of men preparing for battle. In the center of the camp stood a man tall, broad-shouldered, his eyes sharp like the edge of a sword. His name was Khalid ibn al-Walid, a name that would echo across history, feared by enemies and honored by friends, the sword of Allah. He was born into the powerful Quraysh tribe of Mecca, among the noble families of Arabia. From his youth, Khalid was destined for leadership, a master horseman, a skilled swordsman, and a brilliant tactician. His mind was as sharp as his blade. When he rode into battle, his presence alone could turn fear into courage. But at first, Khalid was not among the Muslims. When Prophet Muhammad called the people of Mecca to the worship of one God, Khalid stood against him. He was a man of pride and honor, loyal to his tribe and their ways. He fought in the Battle of Uhud, leading the cavalry that broke the Muslim ranks, a victory that made his name feared. But though he won that day, something began to change in his heart. He had seen the discipline of the Muslims, their unwavering faith, even in defeat. He began to wonder, how could a message so pure and men so brave be false? Years later, after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, Khalid's mind was restless. One night, under the stars, he looked toward Medina and whispered, "By Allah, this path cannot be false. Muhammad is truly a prophet." He mounted his horse and rode with purpose. Along the way, he met his old friend Amr ibn al-As, who was also on his way to embrace Islam. Together they reached Medina, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, greeted Khalid, not with anger, but with a smile. "Welcome, O Khalid," the Prophet said. "I knew that a man with intelligence like yours would one day recognize the truth." From that day, the sword that once fought against Islam now became its sharpest defender. Khalid's first great test came at the Battle of Mu'tah, where 3 commanders fell in succession. The Muslim army was outnumbered, 3,000 against 200,000 Romans. Fear filled the ranks, but Khalid, though newly converted, took command. He devised a masterful plan, changing the formation repeatedly to confuse the enemy into thinking reinforcements had arrived. Then, with courage and strategy, he led the Muslims to a skillful withdrawal, saving the army. His sword broke during the fierce fighting, and he took another, then another, until he wielded 9 swords that day. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, heard of his bravery, he gave him a title that no man had ever received, Saifullah, the sword of Allah. Under that name, Khalid would carve history. When Prophet Muhammad passed away, chaos spread across Arabia. Tribes rebelled, false prophets appeared, but Abu Bakr, the first caliph, called upon Khalid. With unmatched speed and strategy, Khalid crushed the rebels one by one, uniting Arabia once more under Islam. Then came the wars of expansion, into Persia and the Byzantine Empire. Khalid led armies across burning deserts and icy plains. In Iraq, he defeated the Persians at al-Walid, where the battlefield turned red from the sheer number of enemies slain. But it was at Yarmouk that Khalid's genius shone brightest. Facing an army nearly 5 times larger, he used the desert itself as a weapon, the winds, the dunes, and the movement of men. For 6 days the battle raged. Khalid rode tirelessly from one flank to another, commanding, fighting, encouraging. His voice thundered through the chaos. "Stand firm, O soldiers of Islam, paradise lies ahead." The Romans, though mighty and organized, could not match the fire that burned in the hearts of Khalid's men. When the dust settled, the Byzantines were crushed, their empire pushed back, and Syria fell to the Muslims. Even the enemy generals whispered his name with respect. If Khalid were among the Romans, one said, we would have conquered the entire world, but victory never made Khalid arrogant. He never fought for fame or gold, only for Allah. When Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab later removed him from command, some expected rebellion. Yet Khalid bowed his head and said, "I fought for Allah, not for Umar." He lived simply, without riches or palaces. The same sword that had shaped empires lay by his side, worn and stained from countless battles. Years later, lying on his deathbed, Khalid wept softly. His body bore the marks of more than 100 wounds, but not one from behind. He had never fled from battle, never turned his back to the enemy. He whispered to those beside him, "I fought in so many battles that not a place on my body is free from a scar, yet here I die in my bed, like a camel. May the eyes of cowards never rest in peace." His words pierced the hearts of those who heard them. The man who had fought whole empires now faced the one battle every soul must meet, death. As he breathed his last, those around him remembered the Prophet's words, "Khalid is the sword of Allah, unsheathed against the enemies of truth." And so he departed this world, not as a king or a conqueror, but as a servant of God, his name etched forever in the pages of history. Even today, centuries later, his story inspires warriors, leaders and believers alike. For Khalid ibn al-Walid proved that greatness is not in power or numbers, but in faith, courage, and the unbreakable will to stand for what is right. The desert wind still whispers his name. Khalid ibn al-Walid, the sword of Allah,